Hey guys, Dantix here, back with some more Borderlands gameplay and info. Today from Nvidia, so let's not waste any more time. The first thing you're going to do in the game is watch the opening cinematic and select your Vault Hunter. This is very clearly the selection screen, as selecting Rafa here has him getting up and your camera moving to meet him in first person. Here we see Rafa heavily invested in his arc knife's tree. He's picked up the bottom right branch's capstone, Galvanic Panic, which sends out a corrosive STRM glider at an enemy when he performs a melee attack. Since there's only one enemy, it explodes instantly. Sadly, we don't get to see what happens when he activates Blade Fury to send out a volley of gliders. Instead, we see the augment Acid Drop, which replaces his arc knife dash with a caustic leap, dealing damage and creating a corrosive hazard. Rafa is intended to feel like the most maneuverable Vault Hunter, and we can see that here in practice. Realism in physics has never been Borderlands' strong suit. Whee! Amon normally forges two elemental axes with his drones, but with Blade Tempest, he now readies two forged blades instead, one being Incendiary and one being Shock instead of Cryo. Also, instead of throwing one axe out, he throws a barrage of the chosen sword type, priming the target for detonation with his forged skill, another skill that sends out two blades like a boomerang on a separate cooldown. Amon seems to be an extremely interesting Vault Hunter. Of course, your forged skills, which are different depending on what action skill you have equipped, can be modified too. This is the Snow Maul Capstone, which turns the forged skill we were talking about called Double Edge into twin cryo hammers. Most importantly, it ricochets off targets and detonates all that are primed by the action skill. Pretty damn effective and flashy to boot. Keep in mind, both the action skill abilities and forge skill abilities have separate cooldowns. So yes, he can forge axes, swords, and hammers, but he can also forge them as temporary pets. Yes, this means there are full builds that revolve around summoning drones to fight with him. Or you can play as Captain America with a shield throw augment called Molten Rebuke. It homes in on a target, dealing incendiary ordnance damage and ricocheting to other targets, dealing more damage based on the damage the shield has absorbed beforehand, almost like it's made of vibranium. While we're talking Scourge action skill, let's take a look at Storm Lance. It's an augment that replaces the whip with a shock ordnance damage spear. Also in the same branch is the capstone Wraithfall, which lets you summon a huge shock ordnance damage sword instead of summoning a flame wall. It's crazy how many modifications you can make to each Vault Hunter's skill set. So we saw the other action skills being modified, we might as well look at Onslaughter. At a base, it buffs you with speed and incendiary damage, as well as letting you charge and punch enemies with your fist. But here we also see the augment Fulminating Fist, which lets you launch lightning waves that deal shock melee attack damage to all it passes through. The best thing about Onslaughter though, in my opinion, is that you get the forge skill Molten Slam. This has an 80-second cooldown, which is huge for an action skill, but it deals massive AoE damage. It can, of course, also be modified multiple ways. What's interesting here is that this TDO gun doesn't seem to be shooting corrosive weapon damage, yet when it's thrown, it explodes in a corrosive cloud. This means that yes, there will be even elemental rolls on TDO manufacturer reload effects, or that licensed mods can change elements. Even though Gearbox doesn't like showing us much of Harlow the Gravatar, we see one of her skills here, 0 Point, which captures an enemy and lifts them off the ground. Great for crowd control. It also triggers her Entanglement trait, which makes it so dealing damage to enemies afflicted with the rainbow glowing ailment spreads the damage to the others. 0 Point is also augmented here with an ability to slam the enemy to the ground. Sadly, we don't have the name of that augment just yet, but it seems to do damage in an AoE and spread the entanglement effect. Wait, are we getting more pets for Vex, or is this a story moment for someone like Amara who has pets in this game as well? This is what Trouble looks like, Vex's pet, and it's not too far off the art that this dev is working on. There's not much happening in this scene, but I want to highlight it because it really shows the diversity in enemies. During my playtime with the game, roughly 6 hours, I saw more enemies than Borderlands has ever had. But the interesting thing was that there was even differences between the same enemy types. A regular melee ripper would have multiple looks, be male and female, and even have slightly different weapons. There's a lot of detail in the world that goes unnoticed by most. And this is a good example. Enemies, like at the start of Borderlands 3, are cathartic to kill because underneath their skin is a perfect bag of blood and bone ready to be released. Man, that made me sound like a psychopath. So enemies might be filled with exciting things to remove, but what about the world? Turns out Randy decided to push exploration to the limit and tasked his devs to find and reach the most difficult or interesting spots. When they did, they added a Marcus bobblehead there and used them to tell a story of how they got there or what's happened in the area. This one's just sitting on someone's desk in a building. Whoever owns this building and uses this desk has long left or maybe even is dead, but the Marcus bobblehead is there waiting to be claimed by the Vault Hunter who happens upon it. This one is on a remote and beautiful peak where someone set up an easel to paint the incredible vista. Virtually impossible to carry the painting back down without damaging it, the art was left here with a Marcus bobblehead to watch over it until the artist returns. All in all, there are well over 200 Marcus bobbleheads hidden around Kairos. I expect most players will never see any of them. Some may find a few. A very small number of people will explore Kairos so completely that they might discover them all. Each has a story. So if you like collecting things, these are the rough locations. Though Randy says showing you this map gives you the haystack, but you'll still need to find the pin. Combine this with the many overworld activities we've already seen, and there seems to be a ton to do in the world. But all this doesn't mean you have to play the other titles in order to jump into this game. Borderlands 4 has a kind of soft reset to the story. There'll be returning characters, but there is a brand new storyline in a new setting. According to an interview in the Rolling Stone magazine, Randy says, "We saw, for example, between Borderlands 2 and 3, that about a third of the people that played Borderlands 3 were new to the franchise. So we wanted to make sure that we made the game accessible to people that have never played a Borderlands game before, but also make it familiar. If this is your first Borderlands, it's a perfect entry point." He also says, "We thought of our entire philosophy like, let's not limit the player. Let's do the opposite. Less borders, more lands." That became a mantra for us. So that's everything for today. What do you think? More or less excited? Let me know below. For everything Borderlands 4, you're in the right place. Ciao, friends.